I grew up in a little town right down the road, New England, Georgia, and I lived next to a little house and next to a little church, which was it was so small, and it wasn't really used as a rock church, but I used to draw on the front porch, and of the church, or I would sit outside, and I can remember just sitting and drawing, and I liked to make things. I preferred to draw, but I like to make things. Like the junk drawer of the house was my favorite thing to go through, and I would take things and glue it together and tape it together, but I like to draw. And I'll repeat this, which I've said before. My parents kept saying, "You'll be an inventor," because I was always making things.
Yep.
And I wasn't a good student, or I wasn't a good test taker.
It wasn't where your focus was,
mathematics and different things like that. It was just horrible. I didn't get to take an art class till I was in fourth grade. I just wanted to make things. I mean, period. I just wanted to make things. But you didn't get to, or you just did your crafts. And I look forward to it. I was born right after, on the GI Bill, he was taking school and going to work, and he'd bring like these huge boxes of paper, and I'd always draw on the back, and a lot of the stuff you could see would be, his tests or his work stuff. You can see through it. And I was drawing the church that next door, my neighbor's house, our house, Wizard of Oz, all kinds of stuff.
What was it? What was it? Like, what did you see in the house or the church? Or
I just draw what you see, and this was my surroundings. Even in college, the art studio was right next to a cemetery, and I can remember I was drawing cemetery work, and people were like, doom and gloom is like, that's what I see.
Yeah.
And I remember when I finally got to take a real art class in fourth grade, I was so nervous and so excited, and I took art every year, fourth through eighth grade. And then in high school, you only got 2 art classes, basic and advanced. And I remember I intentionally spread it out. I was so excited. I took it in ninth grade, and then I saved it till my senior year and did that. And it was primarily drawing, which was great. I worked some with colors, but I love to draw. I will say this, I like riding bicycles too. I was an only child, and I was probably the youngest kid in the neighborhood. And while other kids were at school, I was at home, waiting for the snow cone man or waiting for a train to go by was the highlight of my day. So I would draw a lot.
How do you know when you're done?
Everybody asks that. And you have to. This painting, I finished it, and I thought it was done, and I actually had it put in a frame and everything else, and I actually popped it back out and did a little more to it. Imagine being in a band, Fleetwood Mac, and you can only play the song once. And that's that painting, I only get to do that idea one time, and then they don't get to make a record, they don't get to tour, they don't get to play it ever again. Well, I want to hear that song again, or I want to do that idea again and twist it and
live
see
or slow or faster with just band. Yeah.
And see how far you can take it into something different. So, and that painting grew into something completely different. And I'm glad I kept working on it.
So you don't have completed piece in your head when you start?
I usually do.
You do.
Yeah,
and then
but
you just work.
I decide if I'm going to do it this way. This one, I wanted to do more square, but it was a size specific. So I had to work, with stretching things out and make it look like I wasn't trying to make it look stretched out. I hide a lot. There's hidden. I really don't want to tell you, because different people see things different ways, and I try to even be ambiguous with if it's if the person's a man or a woman in the piece, because I want you to relate to it. Mm-hmm. I really want the viewer. It can be you looking at that person, looking at the other person, or that can be you looking through the painting. So I try to give just enough to where you can take the story further.
Is it you and Tatiana's relationship sometimes that gives you ideas? Is it things going on with your mom that gives you that?
All of the about politics. And I could really go into that, and
like the separation of the mom from the kid.
Everything, yeah. And I mean, I didn't realize that when I was working the pieces that are down in the other room. I worked on a lot of those during the winter months, and Tony said, "There's not a lot of color." Well, I'm looking out these windows, and it's gray. So I really am affected by what I see. Really.
What is it in things that you see that you want to capture? Or do you want to capture, you just want to observe? Like what? Tell me.
When I finally in college, you had to do an exit show, This is who I am. Mm-hmm. And I can remember I did everything that was asked of me in the projects in school. And when they finally said, okay, here's your exit show, put an exhibit together of X amount of pieces, and have a theme, have a cohesive body of work. And I wanted my work, well, you said a lot of it already, like the book covers and using papers and things. I wanted to have a worn feel. I wanted them to look older than they really were. I wanted it to feel like something you had seen before. But the whole underlying idea of what I did was childhood memories. Being by myself, only child. I can remember exploring through the little town, New England, and Wildwood, in the forest areas. I can remember hiking through the forest, and there'd be trails, and all of a sudden there was no trail, and I would go, "This is the furthest anybody's ever been." I'm a little explorer here. I go through, and you're walking through, and you're discovering new things, and then you realize, I don't know where I am. And then it's just quiet, and you're looking, and I can just remember that feeling of just being alone, not scared, but just being alone and just looking at things in a new way. And then I can remember finding a can or this or that, and it's like, people have been here. Not everything's been discovered, but it's first time for me. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense because you do that in your work. You go until there's no path. Well, now you're way out there where there's no path. Mm-hmm. And you're finding your way, but you're not scared. You know what I mean? That's
very specific. I can remember going out through the little forest area in the town I'm telling you about, and I can remember coming out on power lines, and it worked its way into my work in college. I would have these forest areas and mounds of trees, but I would have like these towers with lights on them, and that made it all the way from 1975 to when I graduated in the 90s. I didn't do people. I don't know if I have any paintings that would show what I did, but I did rows of trees, the sky, the ground, and I did lights or little lights. And that made it from just remembrance, what are those? And I don't want to strip it down to it's a cell tower, but as a kid, seeing car lights and different things like
there's lights in.
I hide them there. And the people always say, well, why do you have lights in your work? And I'll say, well, or at the time, why are there no people in your work? And I say, well, they're there, you just don't see them. The light sources represent the people. It's that feeling in the woods, walking, and you're exploring, and you don't know what you're going to find. That's what I'm trying to do.
Angela and I were reading about the way you started experiments with the glazing and the layering, and there's more in there. And as you start looking, there's so much in there. That's oodles. The world, right?
There's oodles of layers. And I'm in school, I was the guy who painted with blue. The blue. And then when I'm...
Is that because you saw blue?
Everything was blue. Everything. I'm going to be honest. I'm taking away, like telling you stuff I shouldn't, like with the cell towers. I wish you wouldn't tell that because that strips it down and takes all the romance out of it. But that was the bare necessity of it. I mean, I can remember looking at those lights and what is that? We lived in the valley and on the mountain. I lived down close to where hang gliders would jump off and land. Mm-hmm. So you look up at the lights and you could see just the little light sources, and it was just a completely different perspective, and that made its way to my work. And then the opposite of it, now I'm here looking down, and it's the same thing, but a different perspective of it. But in school, I painted, stripping it down. I was really amazed with Whistler. I mean, that's one of my first, I could draw. I had never painted other than watercolors as a kid. So when I got into college, I started looking at different painters instead of, drawings. And I liked how dark his work was, and I liked how it didn't have much color.
Dark meaning dark color.
So I became the guy who painted blue. And then when I moved to Chattanooga, I became the guy who painted bridges. And you might not know who I am, but I was just painting what I saw. The Market Street Bridge, the Veterans Bridge, the Walnut Street Bridge. I'm so glad I've never chased the money. And when my friends that were, I guess that's what you do. I can remember going into this degree or this degree, and I never thought of it as a degree. I thought, well, I'll get a diploma if I'm capable of passing tests. Go through to that.
That wasn't your goal, though.
No. I mean, I honestly went to school because my friends were going to school, and I will say, with a scholarship, that gave me
huge validation.
Yeah. Huge. And a responsibility.
Some people see it that way. Some people see it as that. So it's good that and then that's when you buckled down. Then you had your show with the suit. Mm-hmm. I love that. Then what?
And then...
Is the rest history, so to speak? Like, was the rest...
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. We did that. Had a little starter house, which I thought I would live in forever. Tripped upon this property, bought that, and I can just remember thinking, if we can ever build out there, that'd be the neatest thing in the world. And it seemed like 1,000 years, but 5 short years later, we built this. And the same, our friends got to come up, and they actually had, no futon to sleep on anymore. There's a bedroom.
There's a bed,
well, it's just covered with paintings right now.
The bed's off the floor.
Yeah. So, I mean, it happened. It seemed like it took to college, from being a little kid to college seemed like 1,000,000 years. And now it just seems like a blink. I mean, it just happened. It happened fast. And right now, the last 25 years have happened fast. It didn't seem like it at the time when I was going, through all the different things, but it's, everyone said it, the older you get, the faster it goes by. I'm
really
pushing
does.
50. I didn't try new things. I mean, like bike racing, and I've tried all kinds of sports, but try new things. But man, if I'd known I'd have been around this long, I would have taken much better care. I've got scars from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. My thing is, this is what's going on right now. And I'm presenting how it makes me feel, or what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. But I'm not trying to judge anyone, or I'm not trying, it's just, this is what's coming out.
Because you could read into this that this is this and this is this, and it could be Middle East, it could be Trump wall, it could be intimate between two people, it could be Alzheimer's and whatever.
It affects me, and that comes out. So.
It could be abused children it could be a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what because that's the same, some of the threads I'm getting is the impetus is something made you feel a certain way, or you see something, you make what you see, and it comes out that way. Yeah.
So there's an outlet. But I've always tried to not be in your face with anything. I'll present, here's what I'm feeling. Look at it. How does it make you feel, and what do you see?
Let's go back, Rebecca. When did you meet her? How did that happen? Because you've been together a long time and you finished each other's thoughts and senses.
Yeah.
Right?
We were friends before we dated. And
how old? Like
21, 22, maybe. And then we started dating in 93. And we're married in 95. So 2 years later, we were married. I've met a lot of artists. They've done amazing work and they're gone. And it's work ethic. I mean, you don't even have to say it's work, but you have to produce. If you want to be a professional at anything, you have to produce, and you have to I don't know the right way to say it. You have to call people back. If you have a show that's due, you have to have your show due. I mean, that's just reality.
Yes.
I'm not just out here just floating in a cloud. People don't think I work. I really do work. Mm-hmm. I've put my shows together. It's taken 2 years, but you have to do that. And if you were to ask the difference, that's one thing I will say. If you ask the difference between me and a lot of other artists, I will outwork you. That's my work ethic.
That's your thing,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of really good artists who just don't produce.
Right.
So, and I don't understand that. I just can't, because I like to make things, I guess. And it was the same way in school. What I said earlier, I never could understand how people didn't want to, from 4th grade to 8th grade, I couldn't wait. Mr. D's art class, I couldn't wait. And then the other kids would just go and sit. Yeah, I can completely respect that if you have all these ideas and it comes out into one finished piece, but if you have all these ideas and it comes out to just one unfinished brushstroke, that I don't respect.
And I think you're hitting on something too that's important, is you have to be respectful of what the gift is that you've been given. And if life is giving you an opportunity to use it, you've got to be respectful and show up.
And the viewer. 90 to 95% of what I paint is from just imagination. I'm not looking at an actual train or an actual station. I don't know why. A lot of times, like if I'm painting the Market Street Bridge in Chattanooga, I will actually look enough to get the structure down to where you'll recognize it, and then I put it away because you end up just painting.
Right.
This is another story I probably shouldn't tell another artist.
That's platform 9.75 to me.
When I was a student in drawing in college, the first drawing classes, there was a painter that was doing just kind of, I'm not tapping, this is really a breakthrough thing for me. She was doing just kind of okay work, everything's fine. And then she came back not being in class, and all of a sudden had amazing,
What happened to her?
photographic portraits of people. And it blew me away. If you're wanting to be a professional and get into a place and have someone present you, or if you're trying to sell your work, go that way. If you want to make stuff, it doesn't matter. You can use shoe polish. Even if you are a professional, you can use shoe polish. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Just make stuff. I mean, I practice to learn how to control the brush, but this is what naturally comes out.
Yes.
I mean, I can paint different ways if you ask me to, but naturally, this is. And I think that would probably be the most frustrating thing in the world, to have never found that this is what naturally comes out. What if I didn't paint? Or what if I painted and I was always instructed to paint abstract expressionism? I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. I don't know. But
And
this,
then it wouldn't have that, and like,
that walk through the forest feel, the old feel to it. This is what naturally came out when I finally was turned loose. This is what I naturally
aha.
did.